Hey, in this video, I'm going to introduce 7 major economic theories that you'll be met in your economy class. So let's start with the most typical ones, the Keynesians and the classicals. So let's forget about like the new Keynesian or new classical, just talking about the old Keynesian and old classical. So these two group of people have a very long debate to each other because they don't agree in each other's views. They're thinking that each other's is wrong. So what Keynesian's party is arguing is about we cannot wait for the economy to adjust itself in the long run because in the long run we are all dead. It's a very famous quote by Keynesian, who is the father of Keynesian's theory. So basically what he points out is that the wages and prices are very sticky. So if even though there's something happening like the demand shocks or supply shocks happening, the economy cannot fix itself very quickly. It takes a lot of times, and in this times we will lose a lot of things. So probably the things that we lose will be bigger than the harm that it just directly brought to us. So he was basically saying that at this time the government have to get involved, otherwise the whole economy will just crush out. So I point out some like key points in here, but we will take a look at this later. So on the other hand, for the classical peoples, they are thinking that we don't have to do anything to the economy. The economy is flexible, like it has flexible prices and wages, so governments don't have to get involved at all, so the economy can fix itself in the long run. They don't think the time is really a big issue in here, basically, because they think ultimately the economy will fix itself. So these time that have been taken does not make a very huge change to the whole economy. But um, from different people's perspective, they will think in different ways. So a lot of these economic theories have been developed over and over again, like in the past centuries or decades. So today I'm gonna show you like the 7 major theories that's been held for a long time, and we're starting with the Keynesian and New Classical. But we're starting with the new ones, which is kind of like developed upon the old Keynesian and old classical. So what is the new Keynesian theories? So new Keynesian theories basically are talking about again, like the old Keynesians, the government has to get involved because people are freak of the shocks, like either demand or supply shocks. So even though at this time they have money in their pocket, they are thinking that economy will go worse again, so they won't spend it. So that kind of create a very bad cycle, a negative economic cycle, that there's no consumer spendings to the economy, which cannot let like the aggregate demand will decrease, and the whole economy, the business cycle will just go down, like go into the recessions or kind of things. It's really bad. So they don't want they don't want these type of things to happen. So they're thinking at this time government has to get involved. So which means that in the long run, like it doesn't matter right here because we cannot get into the long run, because as what Keynesian is saying, in the long run we are all dead, so we only care about short run, and short run is the most important thing. So the government can do more good than harm, definitely, because government is kind of like the helper in this time period. So and also like the cause of instabilities, they're definitely going to be have some instabilities created because of it. Basically it's because of uncontrolled business cycle. You don't know like how is the business cycle is gonna go down or up, in what ways, in what time. So um so yeah, so there's also like some shortcomings, which basically due to the government is not flexible as we thought. Sometimes the government try to do something, but it still takes some time. There's some lag effects involved in it. So that's what basically New Keynesian's party is hold about. Let's take a look at the new classical. So new classical, as I introduced at the beginning, just like the old classical, they are still saying that the long run aggregate supply is vertical. Like if you take a look at the very bottom, the graphs in here, I draw it. So the the left side is the new Keynesians, like the no, like yeah, just the the Keynesian old Keynesians graphs, and the right side is the classical graphs. So you can see that long run aggregate supply is very vertical. However, by the Keynesians people's thoughts, there's no long run aggregate supply because we don't care about. We will never enter the long run, so there's only like short run aggregate supply here, and it's relatively flat. Its elasticity is very like a it's very inelastic because of the sticky wages and prices. And so what the classical people are hold about is we should just leave it right here, like the government or other third parties don't have to do anything, and if they do, they actually will do more harm than good. So just stay out. And also because the price and wages are flexible in the in classical's model, in classical people's view, so the economy will fix itself, will adjust itself in the long run. So we just leave it right there. uh, so there's also some cause of instabilities, mostly because the irresponsible government. The government didn't do anything in here, but the key issue is that the government still play a huge role in the whole business cycle and the circular flow. So the government just like get out of this thing. So it's also gonna create some instabilities. And um, there's some policies where like a role of the government here is just to like cut regulation and taxes. And like the big difference between new classical and old classical is that new classical is actually uh mm, there's actually like still like some government involved. It's not like completely get out of the government. So there's still some government involved. It's not necessary like to just push the government out of the cycle. So but there's also some shortcomings, so that it's mainly because you assume that the markets will get better by itself, but if it's not, what should you do? So there's no second choice in here. We just leave it alone and like let the market adjust itself, but it takes a lot of time. It's just like the Keynesian people are arguing about. Sometimes we cannot wait till that long for the economy to do something better. So maybe something worse happening before the markets fix itself, but because there's no like other third parties involved, we will just like see what the things naturally happen, and sometimes it does not go into the good direction often. Okay, so these two are the very major things. So let's so the rest of them are sometimes like related to like these two, because these two are the oldest like theories, and all of the others has have been developed among them. Or sometimes like it's just like it's like a root of a tree. Like the big root we already talked about is Keynesian and classical, and all of the branches and the leaves are like the rest of them. But they're still very important, which is also the reason that I'm gonna talk about later and put them in the same video as these two above. Okay, so let's move on to the behavioralism. So behavioralism, it's kind of like it's kind of different like in among all of these other theories, because instead of call it completely economic views of the society, of the markets, it's more like a economy and psychology combo. So it involves some psychologies and definitely some predictions to the human behaviors, which is not necessarily the knowledge in the economy class, but it's also very useful in the real life. So what the behavioralism people are talking about is that people are not rational and not predictable as we think. So like all of these theories, some of the people are arguing about like the people are rational or irrational. Like if the people are rational, they can just do the things that like basically it means that the people's behavior can be predict, so we don't have to worry about it too much. We can actually use the model um to um to to simulate the whole economies. But because in here, like the behavioralism, people are irrational, so their behaviors cannot be predict, which means that obviously there's no models, and also like this is kind of like too extreme. Like there's like people don't believe like humans behavior, so it's also like it's also like a the government in here just like a overbearing parents, it like because the government don't believe like the people can do the right choice, they will just do it for you, which means that it's also not a very good option in here. But that's the only thing that the behavioralism left, because if like the people cannot do the right thing and government don't get involved, then the whole economy will just like not run as good as it is. So there's definitely have to be some government regulations involved in here, and sometimes it's very a lot of the government regulations compared to other theories. Okay, so that's the common truth about the behavioralism. Let's take a look at the monetarism. Monetarism. So what the monetarism people hold about is they believe the money supply. Like they believe there should have been a stable money supply exist in the whole economy, and they believe the math, right? I mean, there's a lot of there's a lot of mathematicians in the monetarism that hold the truth that they believe this equation right here, mv equals pq. M it stands for money supply, v it stands for the velocity of the money like being like used, or like being I'm not really sure how to describe that word, but it's just in the whole circular flow, in the whole business cycle, how the money has been like transferred hand by hand. And also the PQ is just the nominal GDP. So they're thinking that this equation is everything. This equation is used for every economic situations. So there should be slightly changes to the money supply, because they think only this equation works out, the money supply this will be stable and the whole economy will run good. Um, so there's also like some instabilities, mainly because of too much inflations. Because if you just changing the money supply, you are not really like doing the right things, because for an economy to grow, you have to increase your real GDP instead of just the money, because money is not resources. Money is not like labors, it's not capitals, it's not wages. It's just not, it's just some things that people give them values. They don't have intrinsic values by themselves. So if you just increase the money supply or decrease the money supply, it doesn't really help in a lot of cases. So um so the shortcomings for this theory is that it's a too idealistic equation, and it's too focused on the money supply, which the reality sometimes does not working as the mathematicians are predict about. So okay, so these are basically the main components for the monetarism. So let's move on to the supply side economy theory. And this is also a very main and important economic theories among all of these theories I listed above. So what the supply people are arguing about is that they insist that the like the government can like cutting taxes, like they want to boost the economy from the supply side. Because if we think about the economic growth, we may think more about like the consumer side, because we played a huge role as a consumer instead of the investors, or like the like just kind of that stuff. So the supply side people are thinking that if you cutting taxes, that will boost the economic growth. Why? Because then the investors will have more monies to invest. And also if you like it's also can be done with lower the interest because at that situation that instead of store your money to the bank, you will get like a lower returns compared to you use the money to invest in the economy. So and also it will create more government revenue. So because the investment is increased by cutting the cooperate taxes, the aggregate demand will increase, which will lead to increase in real GDP, which will lead to increase in growth. But there's also some instabilities in here. Sometimes it will be too much taxes, and um, also like talking about the supply side, there's a very famous model called Laffer curve, who has been like invented by a very famous economist called Laffer. He was talking about like basically measuring the taxes. So at what point will the tax create more like the most growth, like the because taxes, if we regularly commonly think about that, we will think, oh, it's not a very good things, like this good to have quotations around it. But sometimes this taxes, like if you increase more tax, this will definitely decrease the incentives to invest. But it's also not necessarily a good thing to just cut a lot of taxes. Sometimes it still like does not like really work that much. So it definitely has to reach some balance point, and this point is very hard to find. So also there's like this theory has zero scientific proof because not currently not any of the countries in this world have been tried the supply side theories to the real economy. So this is just also like compared to the like as the same as the monetarism is kind of like too idealistic. We are not sure how it will work in the real life. Okay, so let's move on to the second one. Is the Austrian theory. So Austrian is also a very old economic theories. It's kind of like exist in the well, I'm not sure the time that it exists, but it's been holding like the same respectful as the Keynesian and classical, which are the very two main economic theories in the world. So Austrian people are thinking about, okay, government is bad. There should be like a zero government involved in the economy. We should just let the economy fully stay out. And they believe all the people are rational, they can make the right decisions, and their decision is predictable. And also there's no models because yeah, because like they also don't believe math, so they don't believe models. um, so there's some cause of instabilities, and the instabilities and like the policy to solve the problems are just like the same thing. So the cause of instabilities is most due to like the government. Like they think government is bad, so if government gets involved, they think they will definitely create a lot of instabilities, like more harm than good. And also the policy to solve the problem or the role of government is like no government. They think that the government cannot play like a role in the whole economy. So there's definitely some shortcomings because of this, is that they are like put 100% trust on humanity, on people. So there's definitely some risk on markets to fix itself, just like previously we've been talking about like the new classicals. Um, like I mean, Austrian is even more extreme than new classicals. They don't want any government involved. Compared to new classical, they think there still should some like government it gets involved, but Austrian is just like more extreme. And also like there's some like a huge risk in the whole economies. Okay, so let's move on to last but not least is the modern monetary theory. So this one, a lot of people finds out it's very confused to understand. But basically it's talking about like the whole economies does not have to worry about run out of the monies because what the government can do and the Fed can do is just print as much money as they want. So and you will probably see well, and you will probably say, well, that's will definitely cause a problem, because if you have too much money, that will definitely lead to inflation, right? Or hyperinflation, just like Zimbabwe's. Well, what the modern monetary theory people are holding about is that even though there's some inflations might be happen, it can be limited by using the taxes. So there, I mean, for me, it's really like, um, you like the whole like the government, like just government or Fed put a lot of money to the economy, that will definitely cause some problems, and they're using like a very a strong like policy to fix the problem that they created before, which sometimes is not necessary, but they just do it. I mean, it's also confused to me when I first learned this. So, but what they're thinking is that the government spending has been increased, definitely, because they're putting monies, putting regulations into the economy. That will increase the aggregate demand, because right now, like if people have more monies, they will increase their purchasing powers, and for the investors, they have more monies to invest, and these are all of the components that will shift the aggregate demand out. So they believe that aggregate demand will increase because of that. But they're not worried about the inflations, because what they're thinking is that if the resources, like the natural resources, like the labors, machines, factories, capitals, if these resources are like run out, the economy will adjust itself automatically. You know, I mean, it's understandable, because the monies, as I said before, it's just the thing that people give them value in it. They by themselves don't have any intrinsic values, but the resources on the other hand is limited, right? Especially for the natural resources, some are like unrecyclable. So if these resources get run out, they're thinking that the economy will just like slow down, like the inflation will just be eliminated by itself automatically, which still have some like shortcomings and some instabilities being caused by that. You know, like the government, if the government refuse to spend monies, then what if the government refuse to spend monies, what you should do? You have no choice, right? There's no second option. So it has a lot of risks in it. And the policy to solve problems and the role of government is more like, the government provide anything the market can, so government just basically plays a huge role in the whole economies. And also there's zero scientific proof. It's like truly theoretical. Like none of the countries have been doing the modern monetary theories right now. I mean, talking about like a supply side, this is also like zero scientific proof, but I'm not sure like in the current world which country is doing the supply side, or like more closer to the supply side. But I'm pretty sure that the last one, like MMT, not even single one country have been doing this right now. It's just so theoretical and so idealized. You like, because the whole economy is so complicated, and just like Austrian people believe, they think the whole economy is so complicated, um so you cannot really control it. So also I think that's one of the reasons that they want to put the government or any of the third parties away, because they think they don't understand the economy. No one understands the economy. It takes a lot of factors to really run an economy. So they're just thinking, well, if the economy is so complicated, just let it be. Like just let it do it there and itself. It definitely have its own like a full set of rules to run the economy in a very good order, in a very good shape. Okay.